Hi, I'm Teddy Burriss, your LinkedIn Sales Navigator strategist, trainer, and coach. And I have 6 LinkedIn questions I'm going to answer in this compilation video. Now, I'm going to put a table of contents in the video description so you can jump to the question that's the most relevant to you. But before you look at these videos, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button because I create these videos just for you. All right, the first question is, when should I update LinkedIn after I quit my job? Now, there's no easy single answer to this. Each of us are individuals and our situations are unique to us. But I have a couple thoughts that might be worth considering. And I recommend that you mark the job as ended. And the way you mark a job as ended, you go to the pencil for that job, and you'll see right here, I'm currently working in this role. And when you uncheck that, you then have to put at very least a year, maybe a month, but at least a year of when you left that job before you can hit the save button. If I hit the save button, you'll notice now start and end dates are required. But I put a year and you can hit the save button. So that's how you do it, but when should you do it? That's the big question. So number one, here's a couple thoughts. If you're retiring, here's a thought, here's an idea. Make it a celebration. Maybe bring your coworkers together or your friends together and have a party, and part of the party is I'm going to turn it off on LinkedIn. So do that as soon as you're ready to have the party. Now, if you're moving to another job, maybe you'll make this change when you are ready to move to that job, when you are ready to publicly state that I have taken a new job. Now, that should be fairly timely, shouldn't drag on, especially if you're in a business development or community engagement role and you want the public to know you have this new job. You should update your LinkedIn profile as quickly as you can so that you can be discovered as someone at that new job, new company, and not at the old job or the old company. Now, if you've left the job and become unemployed for whatever reason, you quit or they let you go, whatever the words are, then what you need to think about is as you transition into actively looking for work, you may wait until you get that next job to change your job status. So you remove yourself from this company and add yourself to a new company. But make sure you are actively seeking for a job. If you're not actively seeking, then you may want to take yourself out of that company. And then when you do find another job at whatever point in the future, then you add that company and put yourself in that job. Now, here's another way to look at this. If you're leaving that company because it's toxic, if you're leaving that company because it's a bad environment to be in, I would encourage you to take yourself out of that job as soon as you can. Furthermore, if it's very toxic and it's really a horrible place to be, you may want to consider deleting that company, that role from your LinkedIn profile altogether. Depend upon how long you were there. If you were there a few months, then it's no harm, no foul not to list it on your profile at all. If you were there 4, 5, 6 years, then you might want to put it there and leave it there, but just remove yourself from that role as soon as you can. How quickly you turn that job off as no longer working there is totally up to you and dependent upon your situation. So make decisions relevant to what your transition is all about, but don't leave it. If once you leave a job, at some point you really do need to come back and mark yourself as no longer working there so that you're no longer associated with a company that you really aren't associated with. All right, here's the second question. What should I post on LinkedIn to get noticed? Now that question depends really on what you want to be noticed for. And additionally, posting content is not the only way to get noticed on LinkedIn. Engaging on existing content is also a powerful way to get noticed. So think about engagement and maybe posting, but don't just think posting. Now, if you want to be noticed as an authority, in the industry that you work in, then you should consider posting and engaging on content that shows your expertise, shows your authority. And that content typically is going to be content that is relevant to the industry and relevant to, and as well as meaningful to, those who are important to you, i.e. your target audience. Now, first and foremost, I'm thinking if you're using LinkedIn as a business tool, then you should be wanting to be noticed as an authority in your industry, an authority in your company, an authority in your role. Now, if you want to be noticed as a community advocate, then it's maybe a little bit different, but not so different. You should be posting and engaging on content that is relevant to your community. Maybe that community is a geographical community. Maybe that community is an organization or an association. But think about the community that you're a part of, and so therefore that content should be relevant and interesting, useful to that community. Now, this is important. Being clear as to who you want to be noticed by is vital for you to move forward in these actions, because you're not wanting to be noticed by everyone. You should want to be noticed by people who are important, i.e. what we refer to as your target audience. So again, that content needs to be relevant and interesting to that target audience. Now, you should minimize posting content that is all about you and all about your company. Now that may sound, contradictory or, not supportive of your goal, but think about this for a minute. It's similar to networking in real life. If every time you go to a networking event, you walk in and you dole out your brochures, you dole out your business cards every time you walk into a networking event, how soon do you think the next day you walk in and they turn their back on you? They're not interested in what you have to offer. However, if you show up at a networking event and you bring an interesting story, a unique idea, you bring stories about others or about your industry, your community, and then every now and then you bring a little bit about you, they're going to be more accepting of that content about you because they know that you are networking for mutual benefit and that you care about others as well. So you're bringing interesting and unique stories and a little bit about you. The same thing on LinkedIn. If every time you show up on LinkedIn, you are posting or commenting and you're making it all about you or all about your company, in time, your target audience will start ignoring your content. So don't be that. Be that person who shows up all the time with something of interest, something unique, something inspirational or motivational or some thought-provoking idea, and then every now and then you show up with something about you. That'll work. Now, you also don't want to be posting the same content over and over again. Don't show up every day, or every time you show up on LinkedIn with an article, or every time you show up on LinkedIn with a post. Diversify it. LinkedIn has the ability for you to share. If I go to the home page, you have the ability to share, an image, a native video, a document. You have the ability to do, share we're hiring or do celebrate other people or do a poll. You have the ability to share links to third-party content. You have the ability, when you do an image, to put 9 images in a single post. So mix it up so that you're not, stale or stagnant with the same stuff every single time. Because different people want to consume different types of content. Think about that. It's really important. So the bottom line is, if you're creating content that is useful, relevant, and interesting to your target audience, then you're going to get far greater opportunity to be noticed, to be recognized as someone who cares about their target audience. Here's the next one. Should a company be on LinkedIn with their company name? By the way, if this content's of interest to you or relevant or helpful, do me a favor and do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button. Should a company be on LinkedIn with their company name? I think the question is asking, should a company have a company page on LinkedIn? Now, I hope they're not asking, should they create a personal profile as a company? Because that won't work. That's a big mistake. Not only is that a mistake, but it also violates the LinkedIn's terms and services and could create an opportunity where that profile that you set up for your company goes away. But I think a company who does have their target audience on LinkedIn, their ideal client is on LinkedIn, as well as their employees. I think a company should be represented by a LinkedIn page, what I call a LinkedIn company page. So, but don't create a LinkedIn profile to represent your company. A well-built LinkedIn company page can be a great way to build your brand, build your awareness, as well as create opportunities for lead generation through LinkedIn. However, this does take work. So you must be willing to do this. Create the page highly relevant to your target audience. Write the About section highly relevant and useful to the target audience. Do not write a LinkedIn company page About section that mimics what we typically see on web pages today, where they talk about our company is 60 years old, founded by our great-grandfather before he died. And no, write an About section that speaks to the target audience, telling your target audience, your ideal client, what you do to serve them. Then you discover that history in your history statement on your website, on a social media platform, and not looking for that history initially. So additionally, if you're going to create a LinkedIn company page, you've got to regularly feed it. If you're not regularly feeding it, then it becomes stale and stagnant. And your target audience wants to read interesting, useful content that shows them who you are and what you can do to serve them. So don't write posts all about your company. Write posts all about your target audience, your target industry, your target community, and write stories that are relevant to them. I see often on company pages, they'll do a celebratory post for an employee that's been there 3 years. Steve has been here 3 years. He's been a vital part of the organization. We're proud to have him here. We've watched him grow. Well, that's great that you feel that way, but you could make that post way more meaningful to your target audience. Steve has been a part of our team for 3 years. We've seen how Steve has been able to help our clients with X and Y and Z. We've been thrilled to see Steve become an integral part of the industry and develop and grow so he's able to serve the industry in better ways. Make that celebratory post about Steve on your company page, how Steve serves the clients, not how he's been a great part of the company. We get that. You would have fired him if he hadn't been a great part of the company. So, and then every now and then, by the way, when you're writing this content and feeding it to your company pages, maybe once a week, maybe a few times a month, not every day. Maybe what you could do is, as the content's all about your target audience and your industry, drop a little bit about your company every now and then. I'm a 1 in 10 guy. 1 times out of 10, it can be about your company. 9 times out of 10 is about your target audience. So think about building a company page where you tell your target audience who you are and what you do for them. Creating and posting and sharing content all about your target audience and your industry, and a little bit about your company. Here's the next one. How long should a LinkedIn post be for maximum views? Now, I've done some research on this. By the way, a LinkedIn post can have 3,000 characters. By the way, a LinkedIn post can also have 9 images on it, as well as it can be a document, a video, a link. It can be a poll, etc., etc. Now, lots of authors know how to write compelling content that pulls the reader in, has them mesmerize with the story. But most LinkedIn members can't do that. So I wouldn't try to write too long of a LinkedIn post. Now, I did some more research. There's a guy named Christopher Chang in December of 2021 wrote an article all about their best post on LinkedIn. Now, he wrote about lots of really interesting ideas and how an article needs to be interesting, intriguing, how it needs to be inspirational, and different types of content. But he never once mentioned how long a post should be, which kind of led me to believe that wasn't a critical metric of the value of a post that gets the best views. Now, I'll share the link to that article in the description so you can go read it. Dominic Sorrento also wrote an article in January of 2022, just less than a month ago, and he talked about the 5 different LinkedIn post types and how you can create them in such a way that gets the best views. Now, he talked about text and native video. He talked about blogs and third-party links and photos and graphic posts, the 5 primary ones. And he talked about how, again, the content, first of all, he said it should have hashtags, which I agree. He also said keep the sentences short, don't write a big hunk of text. And he also said to make sure it's meaningful and useful in a conversational tone for your target audience. Again, he didn't speak to how long an article should be. So I think that's less of a criteria. I think it's really writing content that's meaningful, useful, relevant, interesting to your target audience in a conversational tone will get you the best views of your content. And length, you should only be willing to write long posts if you are a good writer. Otherwise, keep them short and succinct and very clearly, again, focused to your target audience. I'll put his article in the content as well. I've seen a few, very few, long posts on LinkedIn. Most of the long posts are not intriguing enough to keep my attention. So keep them short and succinct. Again, use the other metrics that are important, interesting, relevant, useful to your target audience. And you'll get the best views you can get. Furthermore, when you write an article, when you write a post on LinkedIn, don't just sit it out there. Look for ways to engage on it when others engage. And if the article is highly relevant to someone else, maybe send them a message and a link to the article and ask them their opinion of it. Pull people in and pull relevant people in any way you can. Here's the next question. Can 2 people use the same LinkedIn account? Nope. For lots of reasons. Well, reason number 1 is it violates the LinkedIn's terms and services. Reason number 2 is, for me, way more important, and that is those of us who use LinkedIn on a regular basis look at LinkedIn profiles as being a representative of a single human being. We don't want to engage with people through messaging and invites and posts and comments and replies, and that be 2 different people. We want to have a conversation with one human through their LinkedIn profile, not multiple humans. So absolutely do not do that. I have been in situations, again, where I had a conversation through a LinkedIn invite and then a message with one person, and then the tone changes when another person shows up. Don't do that to your LinkedIn network. Don't do that to anybody. We don't do this in real life. In real life, you don't have somebody represent you, and then once you hook someone into a lead or a prospect, you have someone else show up. I've had that on LinkedIn. I've had LinkedIn conversations with the CEO of a company, and then it turns out it wasn't the CEO at all. It was one of their underlings. And he actually laughed at me when I thought I was talking to his CEO. Oh no, that wasn't her. That was me all along. Never do that to your LinkedIn network, just like you don't do it in real life. By the way, note this: if LinkedIn discovers that you are sharing a LinkedIn account with someone else, you're giving your LinkedIn login to someone else, you are putting your LinkedIn account at jeopardy because that violates the terms and services, and it's grounds for them to terminate that account. Don't do that to yourself. Here's the last question in this compilation. How do I read an unsent message in LinkedIn? Now, I've ignored this question for some time because I've been asked this in different ways, but I kind of thought now was time for me to answer it. So this question could be in 2 different scenarios. Now, in regards to your drafts, there is no draft. In regards to unsent messages that you have not sent, there really is no draft folder. I can type a message down here, testing a 3rd time, and watch this. If I come off, as long as I stay in messaging, I can go back, and there's my testing. Actually, even more than that, if I come out of LinkedIn, I come out of the messaging, it wants to discard it. But if I come back to messaging, there it is. However, the moment this page refreshes, you'll notice it said I had unsaved content. Go to Rebecca, that draft is gone. So again, do not rely on drafts or being able to view unsent messages in LinkedIn, because again, once you refresh this page or refresh LinkedIn, that draft goes away. And again, under messages, you have archived, unread, and in-mail and spam, my connections and all. There's no draft folder here. So don't rely on drafts in LinkedIn. They really don't exist for the most part. Furthermore, if in the other scenario, if the question is in context of unsent messages that someone has pending for you, as with any other messaging format, you will never see that until they hit the send button. So it doesn't exist if they don't send it to you. I'm Teddy Burriss, your LinkedIn and Sales Navigator strategist, trainer, and coach. And I hope these questions and these answers are helpful for you. And if they are, hit that subscribe button. Thank you.